We're here at Auto Club Speedway, Fontana, California, with about 20 of the most badass cars we could find, and we're out here to beat the snot out of them all day. The heat's gonna be terrible, it's gonna be 110 degrees. We have some modern muscle, we have a 2017 Camaro 1LE SS, we have some old muscle, we had a Yanko. It should be a good day. We're gonna see how these cars hold up.
This is the Classic Industries Super Chevy Muscle Car Challenge, presented by Falcon Tires.
Everyone's working on their cars, they're doing last minute adjustments, setting tire pressures, trying to get an idea of how they're gonna have to set things up with the heat. Today's gonna be like the hottest day of the summer so far. You're supposed to hit 110. So guys are just prepping their cars, double checking everything, taking all the stuff out of their trunk. Some guys drove here, so they're just getting ready to run their cars hard.
When we first started doing this for a lot of the years, it'd be Nick Licata of Chevy High now, which was Camaro Formers back then. Him and I both would do all the driving. So whoever would bring their car, either it be an advertiser or a customer with the advertiser's parts on there, they didn't never drive the car. So I would do the baseline car, and then I'd get out there and drive every one of these manufacturer cars. And jumping from one car to another car with a totally different suspension package, totally different size car, different weight. It was a hard task. It was fun, but it was certainly hard to do. And I think back then it probably wasn't the fairest advantage for the person who was setting these cars up, because they probably should have been driving then. I'm not complaining because I got to drive a lot of really cool cars, but it was a tough day. Actually, back then we did it in 2 days, where now we have it down to 1 day.
Last year we had a real clear car that looked set up to win. I mean, the Rampage car from Roadster Shop, you looked at that car and you said, well, that car is a track car. This year we have a lot of cars that have a real good parity on performance.
We changed this up last year, I believe, when we started coming out here to California Speedway, and the manufacturer who were coming out, whether it be Detroit Speed or CPP, Roadster Shop, whoever it may be, they could either drive the car themselves or hire a professional to drive their car, which took a lot of pressure off me now, because now I'm not driving everyone's car. But it was also cool to see these guys who were driving these cars, who set these cars up for themselves and knew what this car was going to do in a turn, going right, going left, braking hard, accelerating. So it made it more of a fair playing field, I would think, to the whole competition, because now everyone's familiar with the car they're driving. And now, to me, it's a competition. They're out there driving hard, and you know, it's a testament to see these cars out there up against a brand new 2017 Camaro, which out of the box runs awesome. They're fast, they handle really good. And to see some of these cars beat that brand new car, being 50 years old, it's unbelievable.
We have everything here from their basic bolt-on car that you could do in your driveway at home for a few $1,000s to mega cars driven by, you know, like Robbie Unser and stuff. So we have a big variance of cars. We have a big variance of drivers. We split the cars in half. While one group of cars is on the road course, the second group will be over on the slalom and the 100-yard dash doing that. And then after lunch, we'll switch them. The sooner we get done, the sooner people are through the heat and stuff. So it's all good for everybody.
My name is Edward Navarro. I'm part of the marketing team at Classic Industries. For Classic Industries, the opportunity to be title sponsor for this event, it's totally major. You know, we're always wanting to see how these parts look in action, how the cars handle, how the cars look, the smiling faces on the drivers when they get the car out. It's totally going to be great. I'm excited, the team's excited, and we just can't wait.
My name's Jeremy Templeman. I'm the digital administrator for Falcon Tires. As the presenting sponsor of the Super Chevy Muscle Car Challenge, all of the cars in this event are running our Azenis RT615K tire. It's our road and track tire. It's a very competitive tire, and it's also very streetable. So the tire itself has been used extensively in everything from autocross, the Ultimate Street Car Association, and as well as Formula Drift. It's been a very successful tire, and you know, lots of grip, and it's very durable for what it is. You can drive it to the track it all day, and still have a tire to drive home on.
Slalom is a 420-foot course, 70 feet in between each cone. And that's just to find the attitude of your car going left to right so quickly. I mean, it's split decision. It's boom, boom, boom between each cone, and then you exit out. In doing this, it really shows what a car can do and react so quickly. And the average speeds of a car going through a slalom course, you're starting out at 45 to 50 miles an hour, which it's hard to compare by me telling you a 70-foot, cone to cone. But let me tell you, it's fast. I'm here with Mike from Willwood and Brian, the owner, the builder, the driver of the 73 Camaro. Brian, tell me a little about it.
Well, built this car, started in late 2008, took about 3 years to build it. The chassis, the cage work, all the drivetrain, all the suspension was all built by Mike Meyer. It's all tubular, a lot of one-off stuff, but a lot of history he's got on the way he builds the suspensions into the car. It's got a 3-link rear suspension with a floating rear end, and the front is all double A-arm. Really trick stuff that you'll hopefully see later in some nice photos. Really trick and suspension.
What are we doing for drivetrain, motor trans?
Motor, it's a Mass Motorsports LS3. Makes a little over 600 horse. It's got a G-Force 4-speed dog box transmission, so it makes the shift really nice when you're driving it hard.
Yeah.
And then the rear end's a 4.9 inch.
Very cool. Mike, you got some big brakes on this thing. Tell me about them.
And I've known Brian for so long, and this has been a car in Willwood stable for quite a long time, that this car morphed from being built as pretty much a primary autocross car into more of a pro touring track day car. So we slowly went from, I'm going to say, small brakes,
yes,
to much bigger brakes. So we just got done installing floating 2-piece hat rotors on the car, 13-inch Spec 37 GT slotted only. Super light, narrow, 6 calipers, and on the back it's only an 11 3/4 inch rotor with a 4-piston Dynapro.
Okay, and what are the reasons for that? I see a lot of people who run 13s all the way around, 14s.
So the way that this car has been built, it's been more purposely built and slowly morphed into what I would say a street car.
Sure more.
So what we look at is we don't need all this rotational and unsprung weight in the car.
Gotcha.
So the amount of brake we put into the car is what's needed. That's why we went to a 2-piece hat rotor floating in the front, so it'd have that rotor expansion. And on the rear, we want to keep the horsepower and all that weight off the rear end, so we went with a smaller brake that's just enough.
Cool. Master cylinder, is it assisted? Is it manual?
It's a manual with a balance bar, clutch brake, and then remote reservoirs.
So balance bar on the pedal itself and
Correct.
adjust front and rear?
Yep, and
Very
it's got
cool.
a balance adjuster, correct?
How's it feel?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the manual brakes on this car because you really have a feel.
You can modulate.
Yeah, you can really modulate. You're not getting over assisted. I left foot brake when I race, so it really gives me that positive feel, and I can give it as much as I want.
Very cool. So tomorrow we got a bunch of events going on. One being the dash, we got the slalom, we got the road course. What are you looking forward to?
I always like the road course.
Yeah.
I've never been on this track, so it's going to be interesting to see how I do. I've watched a little video to kind of see, but from what I understand, they changed it up maybe a little bit with the cones, but that's going to be the most fun for me.
It's a fun track. You got a couple of good straightaways and some even sweeping turns and some tight stuff. So cool. Why don't we get this thing off the rack out of the track and see what it does?
Cool.
Cool.
So the 100-yard dash, with that, it's obviously 300 feet. To compare it, it's a football field. And what it is, it's a dead stop with the timers right there at the starting line, and you accelerate as hard as you can all the way through that 300 feet to see how fast your car is. Well, sometimes the car with the most horsepower doesn't win because it's hard to hook up out there. We don't have any DHT out there. We have really good Falcon tires, which are sticky, but you run 800 horsepower from a dead stop and you're trying to get that car up as fast as you can in 100 yards. It's not easy to do. So sometimes that car with 400, 500 horsepower could beat that car with 800 horsepower. It all depends on the driver himself and obviously how the car's handling. Hi, I'm here with Robbie and Carson of Speedway Motors, and they brought me this 67 Camaro.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, it's pretty good looking. I know that much.
It's not stock.
It's not stock. No, it is not stock, and it is very vintage. This is our third attempt when we're going into the pro touring cars that we've done. Speedway's done, you know, hot rods and T-buckets forever. So while we went out and the Camaros were getting beat by Corvettes, which is happening a lot in these days, we decided instead of going for a Vet that we would take one hard swing at seeing what we could do with the Camaro and see if we couldn't, you know, get up there and scratch on, you know, Smitty and Pop's back door. So we came up, after a long night of talking and a little bit of crazy things, we came up with what you see behind us.
Yes, yes. It's wild, for sure. What are we looking for as far as front suspension?
So what we did with this car here is we did a lot of work to basically narrow up the engine compartment so that the tires could do their thing. And one of the things from our earlier cars we identified was that they needed more steering angle. And I think you noticed.
It looks like it turns quite a bit. Another unique thing I was looking at when we had it up in the air was the rear, in a way the rear suspension. One, it's independent in the rear.
Yep.
Two, the positioning of the coilovers isn't your typical way of hanging coilovers. Can you tell me a little about that?
Sure. What we wanted to do on the rear end, we wanted to build a rear end that had the performance that was basically the most you could get out of an independent rear suspension, but yet make it affordable. So the rear carrier is out of a 2011 Camaro. So the rear carrier, the upper AMs, and the uprights are stock Chevy out of a 2000 Camaro R. And then the push rod suspension is what your question was actually about.
Yeah.
So from the lower A-arms up into the trunk, there's push rods, and then there's a rocker arm at the top of the push rod, and then the coil springs lay at an angle like this. And the way that suspension works is you can change the ride height of the car by just changing the push rod lengths.
Oh, yeah.
So you undo a couple jam nuts,
Sure.
and you change the push rod lengths, and that can raise and lower the car.
So like typically you would have to tighten the car up with a spring to raise the car
That's
up.
right.
You're not even touching the spring rate. Back to the Super Chevy Challenge.
Yep.
Why don't we get this thing off the lift, get it out of the track and see what it really can do.
That's what I want to do.
Awesome.
That's what I want to do.
So the road course, I believe, is like anywhere from 1.5 to 1.8 miles long, so it's a pretty good sized road course. A fast car can make it around, I think, 1 minute and 13 seconds, where the average car is making it in probably like the 116 to 120 range, which is still extremely fast. The road course has 2 really long straightaways, so horsepower is going to help you out a lot there. And you got a lot of tight turns, and you got a couple long sweeping turns. So it really shows everything your car is able to do as far as the suspension and brake package. A car that can handle real well coming into turns is going to work real well in the tighter and bigger turns. But a car per se that doesn't have all that horsepower, you want a lot of braking, so you can brake late entering a first turn out of the long straightaways. So it in itself is another huge test to these cars, and it's obviously, I mean, for what these cars are doing in that amount of time and with that much space in between them and that big of a track, it's pretty unreal. I'm here with Kyle from Detroit Speed, Jake, the driver, the owner of the '69 Camaro. Jake, tell me a little bit about the car.
Yeah, it's actually a car my dad and I built together. We started building it in 2014 for kind of performance driving events, and really had a lot of success with it, mainly to compete in the Ultimate Street Car Association. Started off putting all Detroit Speed Engineering suspension in it, the front subframe, rear quadrolink, and really built it up from there. Every season the competition gets a lot stiffer, so we've kind of updated the car to go along with it. Started off with the stock LS7, moved up to the Lingenfelter LS7, putting out over 700 horsepower, naturally aspirated now. Still a very streetable car, a lot of body mods, wider front fenders, full carbon front clip, custom front spoiler, under tray setup, and just a lot of just really cool stuff with this car. I like the custom interior that makes it unique.
Very cool. Kyle, let's talk about the front suspension a little bit.
Yeah, Jake has our hydroform front subframe right out of the catalog. JRI coilover shocks, double adjustables, and coilover spring shock assembly. and it's a neat package. You know, it's just as well at home on the street, riding comfort and drivability, as it is on the track. It has a lot of capacity on the track, and it's a flagship product for the company, and it's been around for years and thousands of laps, and Jake does a great job with it.
Yeah, I know I've installed a few. Couldn't be any easier, it's all bolt-in.
Yeah, it literally is on these Camaros and even the Novas, you know, it's 6 bolts. You can update half your car by about 50 years, it seems like, and it works well, and it's a good product for us.
Very cool. Let's talk about the rear.
Yeah, the rear is our Quadrelink. You know, it's based on a 9-inch Ford rear axle that Jake has in the car. Uses our swivel link technology, links in the car, coilover shocks, and our geometry, and same thing, it's very tunable, easy to put power down. Jake has one of our optional rear bars in the car, anti-roll bars, and he's got the spring rates and bars set up to his driving style, and that style is really, really fast, so he does a great job with us.
Couple events tomorrow. We're doing the road course, slalom, and a 100-yard dash. What are you looking forward to?
100-yard dash is new for me. Drag race once before, but this car puts power down really well. People always ask, what does this car do best? And it goes forward really well. The Quadrelink setup really does put the power down. So looking forward to see how we do in the 100-yard dash, but really, you know, I'm there for the road course. I love the road course. I love going fast. The car loves going fast. It's got a lot of horsepower. Suspension really works to use all that horsepower, and my home track too. So I think we're gonna do okay.
You've done a few laps out there, haven't you?
Yeah, a few hundred, maybe 1,000. I run there. I've been there twice already this month. So
very cool. Why don't we get the car down on the ground, out to the track, and see what it does?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Once every participant had completed the slalom, 100-yard dash, and CPP road course, we added up the points and gave each car a cumulative score. Here are the top 10 results.
Third place, Willwood Engineering, 73 Camaro, Brian Hobaugh. 47 points. So you edged out the Chevelle by 1. All right, now the top 2 cars, it came down to a 1-point difference. First place having 52 points and second place having 51 points. The way we scored it is 20 points for first place, 18 for second, 17, 16. So you got a little bonus for being in first place, because you should. Second place, missing it by 1, Speedway Motors in that psychedelic 67 Camaro. And I think we all know who that leaves left out. Jake, where's Jake? There you are, come on. 52 points.
Thank you.
And it might even fit you.
Really?
Although it's more for display.
Today was really fun. I've never done it before. I showed up, didn't really know what to do. I didn't even know there was a grand champion kind of thing going on, so it's cool that I won it, but I knew about it about 2 hours ago. And then it was one of those things where you go, oh shoot, how did I do this morning? And then how am I doing right now? So it worked out, obviously, but it was really fun. It was laid back. There's a good group of cars and drivers here. A lot of really knowledgeable suspension people here today from a lot of different companies. So that's cool. I really enjoy being around people who build great cars, and there was a lot of that today. A lot of people who were really passionate about their hobby, and that's what made it fun. And at the end, they let me do big drifts and burnouts and burn my tires off, and no one lets me do that. So that was a blast. No organization has ever been like, you want to go out and do some cool shots with a camera, go ahead. So it was really fun.